The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on October 29th, 2024.
It's time now for Business Matters, brought to you by the Maui Chamber of Commerce. And now, here's your host, the president of the Maui Chamber of Commerce, Pam Toompop. Good morning, Pam. How are you doing today, Pam? Where are you today?
Well, I'm so glad you asked, and good morning, Gary. I am in Oahu today, and I have brought over tons of fabulous products from vendors in the Made in Maui County Festival show coming up this Friday and Saturday at the Maui Arts and Cultural Center, November 1st and 2nd. And I'm doing news television promotion.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a lot of fun, and of course, it's great. I mean, the amazing people who work in our television news, they're just always thrilled and to help us promote these products. And so it's such a great experience to be with them and to have their assistance as we share the Made in Maui County Festival across the state.
It's always good to get that publicity.
It is. And how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing great. It looks like it might be a little bit sunnier today. Can use that a little bit of. I'm kind of over the rain for a while, but use some sun. I need to charge up my.
I know, we want it, then it comes, and it's like, okay, we're good now. Yeah, it's rainy. It's a little bit of rain on here today too, but the sun has peeked out, and the clouds are gorgeous. It's just so beautiful here right now.
I need to charge up my solar battery at home. I've been running off of eco power.
Oh yeah, get it out while the sun's out.
Yes.
Well, I know it's been a funny morning, and so we're waiting to see. I know Senator Angus McKelvey is supposed to be joining us this morning, and I know we're connecting with him right now. We're trying to connect with him right now and see if he can join us. And if he's not available, I know Tom Cook is available, so we can call Tom Cook and he could join us and talk a little bit about amazing priorities going on and things that he wants to see move forward into the new year. But as we give Angus a few minutes, I just want to thank you, Gary, for all you do. You're always such a tremendous help on the show, and we truly appreciate KAOI and the team and you for this Business Matters radio show. It's always a blessing to work with you.
Thank you. And to you.
Thank you. Well, for those listening in, we're so glad you tuned into Business Matters today. We're going to give Senator Angus McKelvey just a couple of minutes to join in. But while we do, I would love to just share a little bit about this is campaign season. And so we do need to mention that when a candidate comes on, we have a valuation of $175 that is contributed by the Chamber of Maui Political Action Committee as a kind contribution to their campaign. And so we want to make that announcement because it's one or maybe even both of the president may come on this morning. But we'll see if Senator McKelvey is available. If not, we can reach out to Tom Cook and see if he can join us. And he's on standby to help out. And, it's a very exciting time. This is a really important election. And one of the things I would like to share a little bit about, and this is really an announcement for what the Chamber of Maui Political Action Committee has done, which is a committee of business people who review candidates on behalf of the Maui Chamber of Commerce through our Political Action Committee. And we invite candidates who are running for office in an election to participate in our candidate endorsement process. Not everybody wants to participate, but it's, and that's fine. But to be endorsed, you have to participate in the process. So I'd love to share with you for a few minutes of the people that we have endorsed this year that are running in this election. The ballots are out. You can find them on the ballot. And here's who I'd really love for you to think about voting for. Of course, it's everybody's personal choice. But our position is that housing is a critical issue. Our economic recovery is a critical issue. We're trying to keep our families here at home, so protecting our people, getting them resources so they don't have to leave the island for other jobs, for other housing, because our housing is too expensive, is so important to us. We've always talked about bringing our children home. And now, of course, that's still a challenge. And now our challenge is keeping our people here so they can afford to live here and have a wonderful quality of life and live in the Hawaii that they cherish. So, those are key things for us, and also protecting our culture. This is something that's always important. We've been looking at regenerative tourism, we've been looking at cultural tourism. These things have been in the works since 2019. They are on the forefront now. There are new ways to do different things. And this is a great time to share our culture that people so cherish, and one of the reasons they love Maui so much. So we were looking for candidates who were very much aligned with the priorities that we feel are so critical. And, we want to say on the federal level, we would like people to vote for U.S. Senator Mazie Hirono, for the district office, the U.S. Rep, Jill Sakuda. At the state level, we have endorsed Lynn Zacoit for Senate District 7, and that's kind of the canoe district, that big district, and Angus McKelvey for Senate District 6, West Maui. And we have Therese Amato representing District 11 on the House side, and that's South Maui area. And then we have Kyle Yamashita with District 12, Upcountry. And then our slate of critical people that we think are very important to help move us forward positively, expeditiously, people who have demonstrated ability to get things done and to look at legislation holistically and come up with comprehensive solutions. And for us, we are looking at Lorian Aquintas. He goes by Lolo for West Maui. Tom Cook for South Maui. Noe U'uhajens for, she has the Makawau Haiku Paia District. Tasha Kama for Kahalui. If you want to talk housing, you should be thanking Tasha. Tasha has made amazing strides and was working on all sorts of housing prior to the wildfires and looking at how we address our homeless issue. And of course, top priority is addressing the folks who desperately need housing out in West Maui. Our council chair, Alice Lee, Wailuku, Waihe'e, and Waikapu. Yukile Sugimura Upcountry, who's been our budget chair. Alice Lee has been our council chair. Another two amazing and dynamic ladies. And John Pelly from Molokai. He has, shown leadership in many positions. He's worked in a variety of industries. He has great ideas. All of this team, from Tom Cook, who's been on the show before, and Noe, who's been on a while back, and Lola, who was on recently, and all of the ladies who've been on, and John was on recently, they're sharing their plans. And we hope you've been listening to Business Matters because it's their ideas that we cherish hearing. It's their, not just, oh, this is the problem. When they came to the table, often we interview candidates, and especially sometimes new candidates will say, well, my first step is to get elected and my plan will come after the fact. And I just really want to encourage everybody, as you're looking at who to vote for this year, ask them what is their plan. Tell them your top priorities. Hear what they have to say. For people who are running for office, you should have been very involved if you're running for office, you should be very involved in your community that you want to serve. You should be ringing in council meetings. You should be sharing your plans, telling people why you're running, what kind of difference you're going to make in their lives. And to make a difference, you have to have a plan. And doesn't mean your plan can't change. Of course it'll change as you learn more and hear more and find out how much money is in the budget for different projects. There's so much to learn about being an elected official, but we're looking for people who have a plan because we've got a housing crisis. And so this is a critical time. And without the ability to quickly move forward, We've been spinning our wheels. We've been patiently waiting. It's been a long time as we, wanted to allow families to grieve in West Maui. The mayor shared it was his plan to, it was his plan and his family practice to, take a year to grieve and they had a celebration. And after that, he did go on a trip with HTA to help promote Maui's tourism and start to bring that critical economic engine back. And again, when people hear economic engine, it is the driver that supports all of our livelihoods in terms of we pay less taxes when visitors are here paying a tremendous share in taxes that the county then uses for our infrastructure to help build new houses here. But we all understand we want to better manage tourism, and we understand the jobs tourism creates, and we understand what's happening now, not only in the visitor industry with lost jobs. We've got a musicians grant to help musicians who have lost their jobs because they aren't able to play music because the businesses can't afford it. We've got restaurant and retail whose businesses and employees are hurting because they don't have the same work hours that they used to have. This is, then you can go on. I mean, we're down in every area. If the hotels aren't full, they're not, and the restaurants are full, they're not buying the same amount of produce to sustain our farmers who need these higher levels to sustain farming. It's very hard, and the margins are lower than other industries. So it's really important that we look at our approach holistically. And that's why we feel, if we're talking these critical priorities, that we feel those people I mentioned, this is the dream team to help us work between federal government, state government, county government, to move things forward with people who are aligned in a vision to, protect our people, our culture, but to also get housing built. We want to expeditiously get housing built. We're decades behind. And recently, I was at, and I'm going to continue sharing some things. I know Gary will let me know if Angus McKelvey calls in. So I was recently at the Hawai'i Economic Association. They're an amazing association, focuses on this data. What they focus on is economic data. So they're leading economists, from all across the state who participate in the Hawai'i Economic Association's work and effort. They bring in excellent trainers every year, and they have an annual conference. And at this year's annual conference, the conference was trusting government. And, there were some examples of where government shows that you can trust them. And basically, they showed that you can trust them by their actions. What actions they took to address the needs of the people they serve. And, action builds trust. When you have hopes and dreams and you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and you don't see movement, and communication is not where you need it to be, and you don't understand, and you don't know what the holdup is, and you just keep thinking it's going to happen and it's not, that takes us away, far, far away from trust. But worse, without having the critical information you need to make a decision, it is really important that people get answers they need. So, because every night they're making decisions, and if you don't have the information you need, then you might be holding on longer when maybe you needed to make a different choice. And we don't want to see people leave. Excuse me. We don't want to see people leave the island. But if they're holding on, hoping for that house to come up right away and missing other opportunities in the meantime, when they were told, hey, you might have to wait a year or 2 years or whatever the time frame is, then they might need to make a different choice. And if you said, okay, well, you can get started in 6 months. Okay, and so many people directly impacted by the West Maui wildfires and indirectly impacted by the West Maui wildfires are hanging on. They're waiting for those answers. They want to see the movement. They need to know, or they need to know if they should be making a choice to pivot, and whatever that pivot means for them. So it is, it's a very difficult time. But when I was at the Hawaii Economic Association, and we were talking about these things, trust in government, getting things done, communication being paramount, to letting people know what's happening. We also shared some data from 2019. We did 2 housing summits at the Maui Chamber of Commerce pre-COVID. So one was in 2017, where we outlined a bunch of solutions to move housing forward. And every council member has seen solutions for how to move permitting and housing projects forward. And, there's this big issue, don't get me wrong, with infrastructure and water and sewer. And there's some critical issues that come in tandem with that. But there's also governmental processes that add a lot to the cost due to primarily delay. The more you delay a project, the more carrying capacity we have. So anyway, but what we shared was that in that summit, we predicted out, knowing that our median home price in 2019 was over $800,000. We predicted out into the future what that median home price, so they call it the median, but it's what that midpoint price is, not a high price, not the lowest of the lowest, but that midpoint price is. And as then it was over $800,000. So we projected that out into the future. And in 2024, that would be this year, we predicted it would be over $1 million. This year, it went up to $1.3 million. So that means we are, and I shared that the annual interest rate of 4% that I was using was very, very low, meaning it would likely be higher than that. In 2030 was the year we predicted it might hit $1.3 million. Now, again, the interest rate, because I didn't want anybody to think I was trying to scare people about a housing crisis. The number we predicted for 2042, so if you think now about, just shy of 20 years, the median home price is predicted to be, and we know this will be low, and in fact it'll be more because we're already accelerated. We've hit 1.3 when we shouldn't be at 1.3 yet. In 2042, we predicted $2 million median home price. So I want that to resonate with people. If you have children you want to bring home, maybe you're going to need not only a house for you or a child or a grandchild, or maybe a great-grandchild, maybe other family members or friends. Think about that. By 2042, if we don't solve our housing crisis, that midpoint home is going to be over $2 million. When I said this to a group of economists, people were shocked because you don't usually see a prediction of housing moving forward, except when you look at reverse mortgages for elderly folks who want to take equity out of their home. And that's where we got this idea on how to predict moving forward. This has real implications. This has huge implications for Maui County. And our real property tax structure and other things. And we are sharing ideas with the county and council to say, given this crisis, we have to start looking at things differently. And the old models have to be out. And we need to start getting the new models in that protect our people, protect our values, protect the things that we need to hold near and dear. And we need people in office who are going to get things done, really get things done. So the other thing I want to share with folks is, as you're voting, and if you haven't, obviously with the chamber, we're very immersed in the process. And we listen to hours and hours of testimony. Well, not only do we send testimony in, or do I participate on video calls or in-person when I can, but lately it's been mostly Zoom. But not only do I do that, but we also listen to the testimony for hours. There was, a recent planning commission meeting on STRs that got a lot of press. Very sad to see some of the conversation there. Regardless of how you feel about STRs, it's not okay to forget our aloha and demonize people for owning a unit that they have loved and cherished for many, many years, which was legal to do. And many of these people supported Maui tremendously during the wildfires and since then. And now we're acting like they're evil people just for buying a unit. It was really sad. But in these discussions, you hear lots of different points of view, and you hear who's proposing solution, what kind of solutions they're proposing. Are they good solutions? Are they bad solutions? And listening to county council meetings, which you can easily do on Akaku, you can do it online. And more importantly, not just listening to the testifiers, but listening to the council who's proposing solutions, who's voting in favor of housing, versus sometimes people who say they're in favor of housing, but they vote against project after project after project. You need to look at those things and understand. And I know how much time all of that takes. And I know that not everybody can do it. And that's one of the reasons that the Chamber puts out our candidate endorsement. Because we've been watching, we've been paying attention, we've been seeing people who are actually not only saying they support affordable housing and rentals, and who support keeping our housing inventory stocked for local residents. We not only do we look at what people are saying, but we look at how they vote. We look at their ideas. And we want to see people who are ready to take a stand and, really move forward with getting things done, and who can work together, and who aren't going to demonize members of our community if they have a different view, but they're going to try and bring everybody in the circle to get better ideas. We need to stop polarizing Maui. And I have to say that, we saw it wasn't so much polarizing our community. Well, there was some of that with mask wearing during COVID. But we saw, of course, saying visitors were evil and they shouldn't come back. And we did a lot of demonizing of visitors during COVID. And when it came to mask wearing, there was some of that with our community. And of course, that was a very difficult time. It was about protecting people's health and more understandable. But now we've got people who are actively involved in demonizing our community and pitting people against each other in a way that's not total. And it's very sad to see. So again, I really want to just share with you, I know that Angus hasn't come in, so I'm sorry that he wasn't able to join us, because I think it's so critical to hear from him and have him share about what's going on in West Maui and the things that he's working on, and how he's looking to make a positive and measurable difference, during this time.
Oh,
Yeah.
Pam.
Hi, Gary.
Why don't we take a quick break? That way I could talk to you off the air for a second.
Okay, great. All right, we're going to take a quick commercial break. But before we do, Gary, let me just mention really quick. So I just want to remind everybody very quickly that we want to encourage you to vote for Senator Mazie Hirono and Representative Phil Sakuda on the federal side. On the state side, Linda Clay, Angus McKelvey, Therese Amato, and Kyle Yamashita. On the county council, Lorian, who goes by Lolo Aquintas, Tom Cook, Noe Uhajan, Tasha Kama, Alice Lee, Yuki Ray Sugimura, and John Pelly. We think they are the right team right now to help us move forward on our critical priorities. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back shortly.
Aloha, Maui. Do you know about Common Ground Collective? My heroes.
We are a Maui nonprofit dedicated to food security, education, and growing a more sustainable future.
Yes, these Earth Angels connect your extra food to the markets. And since the fires, they've been working overtime to nourish families and support farmers as the community heals and rebuilds.
Our relief efforts include hub support, food boxes with fresh local produce, and coordination of emergency feeding for long-term recovery. And our community still really needs support.
Visit commongroundcollective.com today to support their vital work.
Were you affected by the Lahaina fire? If so, we know that many of you are still suffering. We are Hope Worldwide and the Maui Christian Church. Our hearts go out to you. We want to help. You are not forgotten. If you have questions about rebuilding, permits, home loans, insurance, if you're feeling depressed or overwhelmed, come to the Lahaina Housing and Resource Fair Saturday, November 2nd from 1 to 4 p.m. at the Lahaina Intermediate School Cafeteria. Learn more at mauichristianchurch.org.
Would you like to practice preparedness skills and receive free emergency supplies? Register today for the University of Hawaii's free hands-on emergency preparedness workshop in West Maui on Saturday, November 2nd from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. Learn to put out fires, practice first aid, complete a Firewise landscaping activity, start an emergency kit, and experience stress management tools. Maui County residents can sign up at go.hawaii.edu/NGO. That's go.hawaii.edu/NGO.
We are back. It is one of those days. A little bit of a rain here and there. A little bit of high expectations. Trying to find people who were going to be joining us. So we are going to reach out to the Maui Ocean Center. We have been doing a phenomenal program with the Maui Ocean Center. They have been helping us out. We have a musicians grant, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, but many of the musicians have lost some of their gigs that they had at different locations, from hotels to shopping centers to restaurants, to even private events. They've lost many of the different gigs that they had. Again, our economy's down. It's a struggle during this time, and so they have been, really trying to find new venues, but we were able to receive a grant from Hawaii Tourism Authority. They specifically recognized this issue was going to happen. I think they saw some of this during COVID. And so they knew that, and we saw it, and the county under Mayor Victorino also had programs to help. So it was a great program that they put out specifically to help local musicians, and we applied and we received a grant. So we are helping musicians play in resort and tourist areas to share their aloha and to play their music for residents and visitors. It's not just about visitors, it's about residents and visitors getting to hear Hawaiian music. And the Maui Ocean Center has been a big part of that, and we are very excited to have them be a part of this and to just participate and share the aloha spirit with others. They have just been such a great blessing. And so we have been working with the Maui Ocean Center and working with several musicians who've been playing there and being able to spread that aloha. But the musicians have been thrilled because it's an opportunity that they otherwise wouldn't have had. It's making a big difference because they have families to support as well. And so as they're moving forward with different opportunities and trying to pick up additional work. Through this program, we're able to book out and work with the musicians through the end of this year to do what they love doing, get to entertain. It does have to be in resort areas. We've had some businesses up country and other areas who have wanted to hire the musicians, but we can't do it up there right now given the structure of the program. But we did plan on sharing with HTA and in our grant. We know where their focus is, but there are other places around Maui where musicians can be seen by both residents and visitors in areas that tourists do come to, as well as many residents. And we hope to, in the future, maybe broaden the program. But it is an excellent program that is making such a difference in their lives. So we're hoping to connect with Maui Ocean Center on that. Gary, did you see that new number come through?
Oh, here we come. Somebody's coming here. Hold on. Hello, Business Matters. You're on the air.
Okay, you can hear live with us as we're getting guests online.
Somebody called in there.
And juggling.
Oh, hey, it's Angus.
Hey, Angus, we're so glad that we have you on the show.
Yes, thank you guys. Sorry for all the mix-ups there. How are you guys doing this morning?
We're doing great. We are doing great. How are you doing this morning?
Oh, just been running around like a chicken with my head cut off. That's all. Like,
well, I know that
it's down to the mad scramble.
Such a crazy time. Just really crazy time. I know everybody is slammed, and there's just so much need, and so many people crying out and looking to our leaders to help, and it's really a critical time for us to move forward. You know, we were talking a little bit about you earlier, and I'm so glad that you could join us because you are running for office again, and you've been, a strong representative for Maui for a very long time, both as a representative and then, of course, now as a senator. And we just wanted to check in with you and have you share a little bit about what you see are the top priorities for the areas that you serve in, which also includes Kihei.
Well, yes, definitely so. Well, I think that there are so many issues this year coming up. It'd be hard to pin them all in, but I guess globally speaking, I think the big one that we've been talking about during this entire campaign, both my and opponent have been the insurance issues.
Yes.
As we've discussed, you and I before, it's something that is affecting businesses as well as residents. It's putting people in a very bad situation of potentially losing their places to live. Many people have planned out their expenses and such and are in retirement, don't have that wiggle room, and you have all of these increasing rates. And so there's no quick solution. There's no silver bullet, but there are many different things that we're going to do this year to address this situation, both in finding creative new ways for people to lower their insurance risks, as well as looking at some, trying to tie into some national solutions like a national reinsurance policy bill. And then, of course, locally trying to implement things that give people the tools and the ability to either retrofit or harden their homes or condos. And of course, the big thing here is trying to put more investment into HPIA, the Hawaii Property Insurance Agency, to go ahead and to be able to underwrite policies for people in high-risk areas, or perhaps look at the state becoming more of a prominent player in the catastrophic insurance market, which would then free associations and owners up from having to cover potentially all of that. So these are some of the ideas on insurance. Of course, when we look here locally in our own backyard, it's going to be about, especially with the very murky situation on the national front, it's going to be trying to hopefully continue to get federal support for the rebuilding of Lahaina, as well as to try to get more support for, the infrastructure, as well as to continue the temporary housing for those who need it, as well as to try to go ahead and to continue to draw down funds for the county. The county, everything's really going to shift now to the county, and so the state's role, like in other disaster in other states, will be more of trying to ensure financing and funding, and perhaps looking at some changes of the general law, which could help Lahaina. So those are some of the big issues, and just like I said, there are many issues we could discuss that will be facing us in the next session. So it's going to be out of the frying pan and into the fryer, so to speak.
Yeah, no, it's huge. I don't know if you know about this, but I'd like to really get a sense of whether it's true or not true. There was the hotel owner who built 30 homes, bought a parcel and built 30 homes to help house his employees. And somebody shared with me that because federal money was used, the homes can only be occupied by people who meet the requirement for low income, and his employees made too much money, so they couldn't occupy the homes. And that, I mean, I know there's requirements on housing for, making sure that you generate affordable housing, but I don't know if the story is true. Do you know that story? Because I drove by there on Saturday when we went to go see the county plan, and the houses, the majority of them are sitting empty.
Oh, this is up at this is in Kapalua.
No, well, no, I'm talking about the ones across from is there was houses across from the gateway. Maybe that's a different project.
Yeah, I believe there's a church group that was involved with that. Yeah, that's been having some difficulty with the county. Yeah, they have to. Here's the thing, though. I want to get back to the overarching part of the story, which has been something that we've been challenged with, which is that so many people who've been hit for this disaster, this is why I pleaded for a Marshall Plan, did not fit into this bucket of this federal poverty level bucket. I mean, most people in Lahaina lost everything. We're doing, collectively, we're doing okay to be in Lahaina, but they weren't meeting the FPL. Now, all of a sudden, all their aid and support that they need is determined upon whether or not they're below the federal poverty level, which they weren't. And very few people in Hawaii are, because of our high cost of living. You need to earn more money just to live here. And so many people are punished, for lack of a better word, because the feds think, quote, you make too much money, and then countering the fact that they've lost everything.
Right.
That's the other thing about applying this FPL. To me, it's ridiculous to apply this COVID strategy to Lahaina, because I can understand the rationale when you have to give services to everybody that you might want to use, like means testing. But to use it in this situation has been one of the big reasons we've been crippled, big time.
Yeah.
And there's been a call for the feds to either allow Hawaii to have a higher FPL, or perhaps to use the net instead of the gross as the limit. A lot of people get held to the gross, but you got to pay health. You have to have health insurance. You're going to have to pay taxes and Social Security. And so, but both of those things have been, whether it's building affordable housing for people to qualify, or in situations like this FPL thing is coming up over and over again. And it's something hopefully our congressional delegation can get in there and push for, to recognize that in Hawaii, you have to earn more than in the mainland. And so we may be not at the federal poverty level, and as far as the mainland goes, but for us over here, you're nearly break even.
Well, and again, and I'll share a story in a minute as well, but again, it's about understanding we were impacted by a wildfire. So, it's sort of like we're saying, okay, well, we've had these ties for federal funding to address additional housing needs when we're expanding housing needs for those who can't afford housing in our market. But this is a complete disaster. And we're saying, well, we made too much money to get help. Well, no, this is a disaster. And what we're finding is, even in some of the programs, we're trying to help people get SBA loans to rebuild their business. Like, well, you made too much money pre-fire to be considered a small business. And it's like, all that's gone.
Yeah, exactly. All that's gone.
So now we have to look at them. Where are they at now? And they are at a small business startup. Many of them are starting all over as a small business with no income. They've lost so much. So it is trying to really educate people, on the huge differences between Hawaii and the continental U.S.
Yes, absolutely agree. Yes, I mean, that's exactly it. So, I mean, and there's a big difference between the continental U.S. and us, and that's about educating people in D.C., and hopefully, again, our congressional delegation can make this case, because it affects people all over the place.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate you working on that, and I always love that you're always looking at these broader, what's behind it. You're a systems thinker like I am, and it's like, okay, we know this is what's going on, but what's behind it? What is it that we need to fix?
Exactly.
And that's really what's critically important right now, given, again, just the amount of devastation we've had. So what are some of the other critical areas, Angus, that you see we just really, some of it's historical, we needed to fix before, but all of that is exacerbated now by the wildfires. What are some of the other critical things that you think It might have existed for a while, but now it's the time where we really need to stop and fix it.
You mean insofar as Lahaina goes, particularly?
Lahaina or the entire town,
infrastructure, again, of course.
County.
Yeah, infrastructure, of course, is the big one. You talk about fixing things and improving it. There are so many examples of infrastructure needs, both in West and South Maui, that the fire pretty much exacerbates. Of course, we touched upon the housing and that too, which of course relates to the water. So they're all everything's kind of tied into each other, and the fire did expose all of them. And for infrastructure, it's pretty much trying to come up with new ideas to create new financing mechanisms to get some of this road projects that we desperately needed, going again. And of course, in particular, there's a Lahaina bypass north extension. As somebody noted the other day, if we didn't successfully, get the first phases of the bypass built, I was proud of being able to be a pivotal force and all of that. Look how many people probably would have perished. And so getting it extended north, especially given the growth over that's occurred on the north side, is huge. We also have the north-south collector road, which has been gummed up in issues with property owners. I know the county council members are working on it with the KCA. I'm trying to get that situation resolved. But to get that project going, especially since we got a raise grant for the Lapoa Street extension, is critical. But then also the planning and design to get going for the Kihei bypass, which if you look at what's scheduled to be potentially entitled and developed in Wailea, it's going to be a lot of growth going on in that area. And so I think we're looking at introducing a P3 bill this year to try to create a new financing mechanism to help these projects to get more money to these projects that are so desperately needed. We needed it all at once. And then, of course, the other big issue too that the fire exposed, which is an ongoing issue, has been vegetation management. Yeah, you have large landowners all over, especially in South and West Maui, and you see it every day. You're driving back and forth. The grass comes right up against the edge of the highway. Yeah, we need to hopefully get the county, support the county, and during this rebuild to create evacuation routes, and like other places have done, to identify other places that can be used as evac routes and improved as such. So, so infrastructure really, and of course there's the issue of trying to work with the counties on securing programmatic funds, wastewater revolving funds, and clean drinking water funds for some of these projects that have been identified for wastewater, especially in South Maui and Ma'alaia. And so these are all of the different infrastructure is clearly a big area, but this is one of those things where, given the strap of resources that the county and the state, we really need to partner together on everything. And we started that process last year, but now it's even more important than ever. The traditional buckets are all broken. So we need to kind of put everything into one bucket if we can. And that's why I discuss, like some of my colleagues, there's a need for us to have an overarching discussion about the roles of the county and the state, if perhaps some of these duties should change given how the world has changed.
Yeah, I feel that, especially in permitting, that's a good area to look at kind of some of the overlapping roles and the systems and the timeline. But I appreciate that you're on the forefront of looking at these issues and looking at the change. And again, bringing in the why is really important. Like you said, we have to be looking forward and looking at the planned growth and saying, oh my goodness, here we are. The planned growth is going to be astronomical in this area. So that means we're going to have traffic, which means we have to have transportation solutions. And it really is. And a lot of it is. Sometimes I look at some of the plans and it's like, but where's the long-term view? Because we're constantly getting boxed in.
Well, and then we also have a system where developers get to pretty much call the shots about where they want development. Where it should be there should be like, no, here's what the infrastructure is. Here's what the planned infrastructure is, and you get to build here. And if you want to build outside of this area, go ahead, but good luck, number one. And number two is you're going to have to pay and install all this infrastructure yourself before you even get a single anything online. And that way, developers can go ahead. And the other thing, too, is that I'm a big advocate for is pushing to utilize what's already been built. I mean, the Hawai'i Institute, which is one of the accomplishments.
Oh, yeah.
We purchased that. It's like, look how long. Imagine that had been a greenfield or from scratch project. It's probably still being just grubbed right now, and that's it. So, but because you have an existing structure, you already have a water permit, you already got wastewater, you've already got roads and infrastructure around it. And so, a lot of places in Maui's past, we actually were a lot like this. We had mixed use, and there's a potential for adaptive reuse too. So if we can create housing, especially affordable housing that workers need, near the businesses or on top of them, then we can create housing right there, and we're not having to wait years and years to fight through the permits, right? So it's like I call this the war games analogy. Sometimes with permitting, the only way to win is not to play, and the best way to not play is to basically invest in and build upon or recoup something that's already there. So that should be a strategy for us for affordable housing, but also too in ensuring that developers build where we have infrastructure. And if they're gonna put more in an area where there is none, then they have to develop it first. So.
Well, and we've seen, I agree. I hear you, and I agree with what you're saying. We want to infill. We want to do projects where we have existing infrastructure, which also brings down the cost. But we've also seen a period of time where council members required them to build infrastructure, and they did, in particular, a lot of water wells and things. But then they own they own it, and then we say, well, later on we want to retain our water. So as they build the infrastructure, and by the way, it ends up raising that pricing, the house pricing, because they had all that build up to do on top of it. But again, you're right. They've looked at projects that penciled out for them and found a way to do it. But it's, I do love, and I think the Hawai'i Institute is a great example of, again, a building that had been built many years ago, has many rooms, and was basically sitting vacant. So we buy it and we're going to convert it, and that's fantastic. Yeah. And there's a lot of
the amount of money in the retrofitting is going to be minimal. I mean, again, obviously it's that this is part of a strategy, but it's an important part of a strategy. And I look especially in line at the pivot back in that question. A lack of affordable housing in walking distance of Lahaina town was a known fact. Right? So many people crammed up a Lahaina road because of that need to be somewhat close. And so that's in the area, especially with some of these buildings that have what they call, quote, good bones that are intact still. That those are those kinds of things that perhaps can be identified for these types of projects. And to me, you have the water too, and the water is a big challenge. And to the water systems, a lot of these water systems got privatized when actually back in plantation days, when the plantation system failed. They were owned and developed by the plantation companies, and then when the plantation shut down, the government whiffed in allowing them to be purchased by private entities. So but again, the overall arching issue is going to be water. We're in the water management areas for both from West Maui now and South Maui, and we have an ongoing drought. So we need to look at. That's why some of the things that the county is doing, some of their planning that they're implementing, especially the strategic plan on infrastructure, wastewater infrastructure. There's a lot of places where water is either leaking out into the environment, or in low-lying areas, seawater is coming into the pipes. And so we're transporting and treating seawater. And these are the kinds of things that, and also too in the community and all over, has been calling for us to be very, very aggressive. And the county is due on R1. And there's a discussion of even implementing R0 perhaps for the resort areas. But all of these things are what we need to do to try to free up water, because we can build all the houses we want, but if we have no water for the people, right, then it's a zero-sum game, right? And this is when we saw how the lack of water has pretty much stopped one housing project here in West Maui already. So This is why, especially, this is the issue that has to be aggressively solved. And there are things that, you know, modifying seaworm, giving it independence would be a big thing, but also to support the county in trying to reacquire all of because water's a public trust doctrine, and if it's all under the public control, then it can be, to your point, part of a strategic long-term plan.
Pam, we're down to a
And
minute.
not just, I need a meter. I need a meter. I need a meter. I need a meter. It's like, okay, we're only going to have so many meters.
So thank you so much for joining us. We are at the end of the
but
show,
you
but
got
I'm
to go.
so glad
Mahalo,
you had a
everybody.
chance
Thanks
to
again.
come in this morning and talk story with everybody. We appreciate you, and we've encouraged everybody to vote for you this election. We really support you, and you're going to make a measurable difference, as you have in the past, again, as we move forward during these critical times. To all who've joined us for business matters this morning, thank you. It's been a slightly awkward show, but we appreciate you listening in. I guess that's life, and so it's another beautiful day. We hope you enjoy it, and I send blessings and aloha for a beautiful week. Ahoy ho.